An ancient one is threatening to awaken from the bowels of darkness. Dare you and your fellow investigators try to seal it away forever? Yeah, go on, you might as well. It's Elder Sign. Hello and welcome to the Bottled Imp.
Exploring the realms of fantasy.
My name is Ken Boyter, and today we are going to be doing a Bottled Imp Dice Tower edition. We do have our own YouTube channel, so you might want to check us out there. We do all things fantasy, so fancy books, fancy films, fancy board game reviews, and in the future we've got lots more plans to doing different shows, all fantasy based. Anyway, today we're looking at Elder Sign, but enough of me rambling on. Let's get to the meat of the review. Elder Sign. So, what's in the box? Let's take a look. Quite a few components, as you can see, nicely displayed here. Let's start with the dice first. You get a mixture of dice, cards and tokens, so that's always exciting in a board game. So we have dice, we've got the green basic dice. We've also got the red dice and the yellow dice. Now the yellow dice is sort of slightly better than the green dice, and the red dice is slightly better than the yellow dice. There's sort of levels of how good those dice are, and we'll go into that in a little bit. So next we have this lovely beautiful clock. We also have the Mythos pack. We have the Investigator cards, and this is where you'll be choosing at random your character cards. You also have the Adventure deck, or as I like to call them, the Room deck, and I'll explain why. This is the Other World deck. Then we have the Museum Entrance, or kind of the starting space, if you like. We also have equipment for your characters. So you have a common item, we have a unique item, you have spells, and you have allies, and they will help you out as well. Then we have the ancient ones. Now there's a selection of monsters here, and you'll be shuffling these and picking one at random, and that's the ancient one that you'll be trying to seal away. And then we have, as I say, that's an ancient card there that's already set up. And we have the 6 rooms already set up. Let's get on to the tokens. Well, we have the monster tokens, we have the doom track tokens, we have the clue tokens, the Elder Sign tokens, the sanity tokens, stamina tokens, and also the player tokens. And these correspond to your character. So, what's the object of the game? How do you win? It's a cooperative game. It's 1 to 8 players. So obviously you can play this on your own, which I have done so. Not because I haven't got friends, it's just that I thought it'd be a good trial just to see how it played. Now, what you do, the object of the game is you are trying to seal away an ancient one that is threatening to awaken and take over the world. Ha ha ha. So, what do you do? How do you stop him? Well, you need to be collecting these little tokens, the Elder Sign tokens, and it depends how many you need, will depend on which monster you pick. Some are 12, 10, 11, etc, etc. And once you've collected all of those, you have sealed away the monster successfully. As I say, it's cooperative, and you will be going into various rooms of a museum to try and beat that room, if you like, or beat the monster that's in that room, and then hopefully you'll win an Elder Sign. I'll go into detail, obviously, about how you play the game now. So, what's in a player's turn? Well, you set up the game like this. You have a clock that you set at midnight, and everybody will be, as I say, they'll be getting a character card and the equivalent token. So here the blue tokens are the sanity ones, and the red ones are the stamina. So they vary. That's 6 and 4. This one is 4 and 6. That's 3 and 7. So each character will be different, and each character does have a special ability that they can play throughout the game. Plus, you'll be getting items that you start with. In this case, this one is 2 common items. This one is a common item and a spell, and this one is an ally. So each character will be getting one of those to start the game with, and they will also, as I said before, getting their equivalent token to start the game. So on a turn, a character will actually be starting in the museum at the entrance. So imagine it's a big museum, and it's your job as investigators to go into the museum and search each room one by one, looking for any threats. So what you do is you will have a movement phase, a resolution phase, and the clock phase. So once you go into a room, that's your movement phase. You don't have to move on your turn, but you can do so. And obviously you would go to one of the rooms and you would just put your token onto which room you want to go to. So in this case, let's go here, for example. Now I'll just show the card pretty briefly. What you have here is, in order to complete this task, you need to complete tests. And you do that by rolling the dice. So here, this one needs 2 magnifying glasses, this one needs 3 magnifying glasses, and this one needs and I can never remember what that is, it's a weird kind of green threat, and a skull. Now if you notice here, some of the cards actually do have an arrow next to them, which means you have to perform these tasks in order. If there's no arrow, you can just perform them as the dice actually come up. If you beat the card, then you will be getting a reward, which is denoted here on the white background, and in this case it's an elder sign, and remember that's exactly what you're collecting. You also get a common item and you'll get a clue. Now if you lose and you fail to complete all of these tasks, then unfortunately in this case you'll have to take a punishment of losing a sanity and losing a stamina. Now they differ obviously in rewards and penalties on each card, plus the tasks will differ. And this number here, number 2, that's also, if you win, you'll be getting that as a trophy, and you'll be able to spend those trophy points back at the museum entrance. So let's have a quick look at how you actually do the test. So what you do is, to start off with, you'll have these 6 green dice. These are the basic dice, and they have little symbols on it. So for example, you've got a magnifying glass, that one's got a 3 next to it, that one's got a 1, and there is a 2 as well. Plus you have the skull. You've also got this little weird squiggly, I think it's a terror, that's what it's called, a terror threat, plus a scroll. So what you do is you will simply roll these dice and you will see if you have passed each test. So in this case, I've got 2 1s, so that was a 1 and a 1. Now I can obviously have to do these in order, so it goes here. Then what I do is I will roll again. And what do I need to get? I need to get 3 magnifying glasses. Now luckily this one came up, so again I passed that one. And then I roll the dice and I need to match the symbols. Now unfortunately I got all 3 magnifying glasses, so I didn't get a skull and I didn't get a terror, which is what I needed. So what happens is I failed that attempt, I lose one of the dice, and then I go again. So this time I got one of the terrors, which I can now lock in if I want to. I didn't get the skull, so I did fail. So I lock that in, but because I failed, I lose that dice. Now unfortunately I haven't got any more dice to roll to try and complete that challenge. So unfortunately I failed that card. And what happens is I then would put the dice back into the pool and actually then take the punishment of losing a stamina and a sanity token. Now I'll just go through a little bit more with the locked dice. So say if you lose an attempt and you fail that attempt, then what you need to do is, if you do though, so say I had rolled a skull and also I had rolled say a magnifying glass, but I needed a terror symbol, I could lock, or focus as they call it, that die onto my token. That means I could keep that there and roll to see if I get the terror, which in this case I did. Hurrah! So therefore I would have passed that test. Now obviously this one I'd have to do all the others as well in order. So let's say I've won, which I just did. What happens is you will get the reward, and in this case it's an elder sign token, also a common item and a footprint or a clue token. Plus I'd also get this card, and I would keep that face up in front of me. And what that means is that I now have 2 trophy points that I can spend. So I put that next to me, and then a new room appears. So then I would then do the clock phase. So that was the resolution phase. Then I would do the clock phase. What that means is just simply moving that round to 3, the next one. So you move it 3 hours. And that denotes the end of my turn and the beginning of another turn. When the clock goes right round to midnight, that's when you take a mythos card and then you read whatever the mythos card is. You actually do that at the beginning of the game as well. So in this case, it says either add 1 doom token to the doom track, or 1 investigator with 4 or more stamina must lose 3 stamina. So that's pretty tough. It does mention the doom track. I'll quickly mention that, because how does the monster awaken? How does this ancient one burst through into this world? Well, if at any point it says place a doom token on the doom track, you take these really small little tokens and you place it on the doom track. And the doom track is actually on the monster, which is here. And so these ones that have the little sort of cloaked figure, that's neutral, nothing happens, but you would simply place that on there. So obviously if you then have to place another one, that would be 2. Then if you place one over this funny little creature, that actually means that a monster comes out. And these are the monster tokens. And what that means is you would then have to place one of these on one of the rooms. And normally it's the one that has a white space around it. If there's a choice, you can choose where to put it, and you will cover that one. So that then makes that room extra hard. So obviously what happens is throughout the game, more and more monsters pop up and actually start invading the board, which means that's really, really difficult. Some actually lock dice. So for example, this one says lock the yellow dice, and therefore you have to release the dice, so it becomes harder and harder. Now the way that you use these dice, these special dice, is you will be getting common items. Let's have a look. Oh, there you go. Common items, that means if you play that one, you can actually use the red dice as well as the green dice. And exactly the same with the yellow. Is there going to be a yellow one? Let's have a look. No. Wow, these are all red. Anyway, trust me, there are yellow ones where you get to use the yellow dice as well. And that is basically all. And there's the other world cards. Sometimes there's these cards which are other world cards, which are pretty similar to the other rooms, but they are slightly, I've found they're slightly easier. And you simply then just add them to the bottom of the other cards. So how do you spend your trophies? So once you have sort of trophy points, you can actually move back to the entrance of the museum, and that is where you will then be spending your points. So you have various different options you can do. One is where you just roll a green dice and then it determines what reward you get. One is where you can heal various stamina or sanity back up by paying the appropriate amount of trophy points, and here you can gain things like a clue token, a common item, spells, allies, etc, etc. And the other thing that I'd like to point out to you is there is also these clue tokens. Now these clue tokens are pretty handy, because what that means is you can actually re-roll any amount of dice again, 1 per clue token. So that's obviously handy if you frustrated and you can't roll the dice that you actually want to roll. And that is pretty much how the game plays. That's a turn. So once the players take their turns, obviously the doom tokens can be added on to the monster. Now if all the doom tokens are added onto the doom track, then the monster awakens and everybody then has to fight. You get one last attempt to kill the monster. If, however, you get the required amount of elder signs, so in this case, if you're playing with this monster, it would be 12, then you have collectively won the game. Hurrah! And that's how you play it. So what do I think of the game? Well, the components, let's look at those first. Absolutely fantastic. It's from Fantasy Flight, so you're guaranteed pretty much good quality components. All the cards are nice and thick. The artwork is beautiful. It's very well themed. It really evokes that feeling of spookiness and darkness, and you're going into this museum and it's all a bit scary. I did enjoy playing this. I played it on my own initially just to see what it was like, and it's not brilliant on its own. It's okay. I mean, it's, if you like that type of thing, but I would recommend playing it obviously with 2, 3 or 4 players. I've not played it much past, only 4 players was the maximum I played it with, and we did have a lot of fun. There was a few caveats, like for example the iconography, the graphic design here, that was slightly misleading to begin with, because they're not guns in this pack, and you don't get knives in this pack. So I'm not quite 100% sure. That's slightly misleading. That's a very, very minor thing. The other thing was it is a game of chance. It's a game of luck, because you're rolling dice to match, to see if you can match the symbols. And somebody that I played it with actually found that very, very frustrating. But I guess if you go in knowing that, then that should help you out, psychologically, that it's going to be a bit of a frustrating game. But obviously the skill and the strategy comes in trying to negate the luck of the dice. That's what you're doing. You're trying to build up your character to have enough common items and enough spells and allies and clue tokens to re-roll the dice to actually be able to beat the tests, because you want the luck and the odds in your favour. Now, the cooperative aspect, it's there. I mean, what I didn't mention was that if you go into the same room as somebody else, you can help them out by either, using a special ability, or you can also, use one of your cards to help them out. Plus, you can also focus a die on your token as well. So you can have up to 2 or 3 focus dice on at any one time, or however many people are in that room. So there is a bit of cooperation, but there's not a lot of interaction. We didn't find that we were really totally interacting with each other. So that was a little bit of a downside. But that said, I have had a lot of fun playing this, and I will be continuing to play it. So check it out, Elder Sign. Thank you so much for watching the Bottled Imp review of Elder Sign. Hope you enjoyed it. Hope you found it useful. As I say, we do have our own YouTube channel called, have a guess, The Bottled Imp, and we are on the usual social networks, obviously Facebook, and also what's the other one? I've forgotten. Twitter. There you go, Twitter. So check us out there. Leave any comments on our YouTube, Facebook and Twitter accounts if you like, and we will do our best to get back to you. Until the next time, keep it unreal. Because it's fantasy. It's a fantasy game, you see.
Thanks so much for watching the Dice Tower videos. Find more great videos and reviews, as well as our top-rated audio podcast at Dicetower.com. You can also find other great shows at Dicetowernetwork.com. I'm Eric Summerer, and you've been watching The Dice Tower. The Dice Tower is sponsored by Cool Stuff Inc., where you can find great games for great prices. Cool stuff in stock. Check them out at CoolStuffInc.com.